So, tell me about the Alaska Women's Bookstore.
Well, that kind of developed in traveling around to national conferences and everything. I met up with women's bookstores, and I came back and I told some people we really need one here, and so that caught on, and somebody helped start a women's bookstore, and of course it didn't make much money, so Karen and I ended up buying it and running it for quite a long time. And I consider a women's bookstore to be really vital to a community, because you know, like I'd never even heard the word lesbian until the women's movement of the 70s and the literature that came out on all of that. So we needed to unify our ideas and to teach us the vocabulary, teach us what other people in the world were doing. And that's when I also came to the conclusion that patriarchy is an artificial kind of civilization, and that naturally, left on their own, women are friends and help each other and bolster each other, and the guys just go hunting. And so that's when I began to research that, and found that lots of women historians had done a lot of research on that, and so that's when I started teaching a women's studies class for the university, a women's history class for the university. In the meantime, I'd also gotten my PhD in women's studies from, it used to be Union Graduate School, but I think it's called something else now, I don't know what. But anyway, I'd done a lot of studying, and so I taught women's history classes at the university quite a bit, and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. So describe the women's bookstore. Remember when it started? Did it start downtown?
No, I wish Karen were here because she would know. I think it started over here in a. No, it wasn't downtown. Just kind of in a community space. Let's ask Karen.
Okay, because when I first found the bookstore, it was downtown in a little house downtown.
Well, let's ask Karen
Okay.
all the details on that. Because
Okay, that's fine. Could you talk a little bit about how the world is different or not different than when you were a young woman?
Well, the fact that we're talking out loud about gay and lesbian rights now is a big step forward. But we're a long way from having equal rights. I mean, and even women, aside from the lesbian-gay issue, what we're still making 77 cents on the male dollar. That's outrageous. We should be still out marching in the streets, and we did a lot of marching in the streets back then, and it had an effect. People paid attention, and we ought to be doing that now. But I can't stir anybody up in my community to do it. We shouldn't take this. The world is not any more peaceful than it was then, and I've tried to talk about that too in our community, and all those good Christians think we ought to be over there killing people. I know it's unreal.
Mm-hmm. So if you were talking to young women today, what would you want them to know? What would you?
I would tell them that they were as good as anybody else, and that they should stand up and say so, and don't let anybody say anything any different, and that they should stand together, because they'll shoot you down if you're only one person, but if you all stand up together, they won't shoot you all. So we all need to be getting our vision and marching together, and our vision should be equality and peace. not this, and guns and murders. Can you believe how America has gone so gun crazy? What is it? I heard that in Wichita, Kansas now, you don't even have to conceal your firearm. You can carry it like in the old West days, you know, loaded and ready to shoot somebody. We just don't learn. But again, women could stand up and say to the men, that's not the way we're going to do it. We're going to have a more civilized nation than this. So that's what I think we need to do. And I write letters to the editor. We have a really right-wing newspaper, local newspaper, but he's gotten so he's kind of fond of my letters to the editor. Initially, he would only, I think it was not more than one every quarter that he would publish of mine. But he's changed that, and somebody told him that the only reason we take your stupid paper is because every now and then there's an intelligent letter to the editor. So he's heard that, and he welcomes my letters to the editor now. But I don't think many people read the paper, so you don't reach very many people. And the most liberal party down there is the Democrat Party, but it's really a do-nothing Democrat Party. Like we ought to be having discussions on who we're going to vote for. We ought to have all the candidates come in and tell us why we ought to vote for them, so we can make up our own minds. There's nothing that intelligent going on. And I've already voted in the primaries, but there were some spots that there was no Democrat even running for. I know.
So talk about the sing-alongs. How did, hang on just a second, let me clear this up.
Well, there were a lot of women coming out on records with good songs, and they were somehow getting circulated around. Those women were appearing at conferences and that sort of thing. And so that's what started the whole thing. And so we decided to do it here, and we found there were some outstanding singers here, and even some good songwriters. And so the reason I bought that big house over on Westview Circle is because we couldn't find a public arena for all getting together and singing, so I said, I'll just buy one. And I was at a point where I could do that and needed a place to live, so I bought that big house at 1741 Westview Circle, which could, I mean, we had 90 and 100 people in there singing, you know, and eating, and so that perpetuated the sing-alongs. It would be interesting if in the group you could ask people's memories of the first sing-alongs and so forth. I mean, it would be interesting to have other people's perspectives. And the same thing is true of the bookstore, because I did not start the bookstore. I just helped perpetuate the bookstore. And it's hard to find a women's bookstore now, any place you go. Mm-hmm. They've all died.
Mm-hmm. Bookstore was much more than a bookstore.
Right. Yeah. Of course, it's hard to find a feminist gathering. It's hard to find another feminist in our part of the country that you can even go out and have breakfast with. So I miss this community up here because I could almost always wiggle around and say, shoot, I don't want to cook breakfast this morning. Let me call such and such. And as one of them said, well, you got to wait till I get my shoes on. I'll meet you there. We're down there. There's all these excuses about why they couldn't possibly go out and they got to do this, they got to do that.
So I seem to remember that you did a lot of things to support the women's community and individual women.
Well, I hope so.
Can you talk about some of those?
Well, I didn't list all those, so I don't even remember most
Just
of them.
whatever you remember.
But I've helped quite a few people, yeah. If I had enough money, I helped them buy their house. I lost money sometimes that way, but it was worth the gamble. I'll help some of them go to conferences around the nation. Well, that would be something interesting to ask too. Did Lucy ever help you do anything?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't remember most of them. That wasn't the point.
Right. Right. What? How did you come to decide to move back home?
I still had lots of family back there, and I wanted to get acquainted with them before I died. Now, my mother and dad had already died, and I really missed being with them. They died. My mother died at 58, my dad at 62, so they died pretty young. But people die young in those days. But I had several brothers and sisters and their families, and so that's why I moved back there. And also, if you're going to retire and want your money to stretch, money goes much farther back there than it does here. I mean, I'm about to have a place for sale that's going to come vacant. And see, I think the last time I sold it, I've sold it several times, and poor people can't keep it up. But anyway, I think I've got it for $35,000. It's in Hermitage, Missouri, and has a nice lot on Main Street, so it could even make a good coffee shop. The fellow who's living there now is the son of somebody I used to know up here, and he was getting education as a massage therapist, and he was going to use the house, live in the upper rooms, and then use the big lower room for massage therapy. But he got mixed up, of course, with a girl, got her pregnant, and so they need all the space for the family. And then he needs to move to Springfield or someplace where he can work, because way out there in the country there's not much work. So he's going to have to move.
I realized the fridge came on. Hang on here. Let's see.